Thank you all for joining this webinar about 5G media, more than just better connectivity, provided by Jordi Giménez. So before starting, I will first give a short bio of the speaker. So Dr. Jordi Giménez is head of technology at the 5G Media Action Group, 5G MAG. During his career, he has been involved in several standardization activities within 3GPP, DVB, and ATSC, in particular in the domain of next generation media distribution. He has participated in European funded projects and in the coordination of trials and technology demonstrators. He is the author of several patents, international scientific papers, and book chapters. Prior to 5G MAG, he was a researcher at the iTEAM Research Institute of the Universitat Politècnica de Valencia, Spain, where he received a PhD in Telecommunication in 2015. From 2018 to 2020, he was a project manager at the AIDRC in Germany. So, Jordi, you have the floor for a presentation about 30 minutes, and then we finish the talk with a question-answer session for about 10 minutes.
Sorry, I was double muted. So first of all, thank you very much for the invite. As Vasim said, I have prepared actually plenty of slides, but we can go, let's say, briefly through them. And then I think it would be interesting to get questions and to discuss a little bit. So I put this title, right, so 5G media more than just better connectivity. I mean, I could perfectly spend the full session talking about KPIs, very high level concepts, and a lot of call it blah, 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 and so on. But I have decided to do different, right? So in order to focus more on the work that we are doing in 5G MAG, which is more oriented to, let's say, putting standards into play, testing them, software implementation, trials, demos, and so on. I just prepared two very general, first of all, slides introducing a little bit the world in which we are moving in terms of media distribution on one side and media production, or more, let's say, local area production and uplink contribution and so on. So from the point of view of distribution, it's clear that at the moment there's a shift. The industry is in a transition, I would say, influenced heavily by the internet and online, right? And this poses several opportunities and several challenges, right? So the opportunities to actually expand the content into connected devices, not just, let's say, delivering content to more or less dummy devices as it's been traditionally done with television or radio, but to actually go into new devices which expand from smartphones to smart TVs to connected cars to wearables, and even more to new devices also being able to explore new media applications in terms of XR and in terms of call it the metaverse, or all these new media that is coming, right? So this expands, at least from content providers' point of view, the opportunities to do more things, right? To do more immersive, personalized, interactive, gaming-like, on-demand content, delivery supported by new ways of, let's say, of distribution, the opportunity to interact with networks that are more and more intelligent, and so on. All of this also, let's say, ideally taking into account, well, that content is delivered with expected quality and reaching the user with expected quality at a cost that obviously is affordable, right? With scalability, so that these application services and also networks, well, can scale and in the end provide these services to as much users as possible. Opportunities to, well, retaining some control or actually configuring the network so that they behave in the way you expect to, or even, well, depending on the content or depending on the different quality indicators, well, that the networks are able to sustain all of this. And also, well, obviously there's also concepts around security, environmental sustainability, and so on that need to be taken into account in all this, let's say, new world of connected networks. This is one aspect we are dealing in 5G MAC. The other aspect is on the production of content, right? And it's the same. Perhaps in order to produce content some time ago, but you had a lot of proprietary systems that were not really well integrated into, call it cloud, or into the internet, or all IP workflows and so on. And well, what we're exploring is the possibility to not only use these new networks or these new capabilities to do the same thing, but actually to be able to do more things and to be able to, well, to configure networks to do all these processes, let's say, in a more intelligent way, with, I don't know, possibilities to guarantee quality of service for uplink streaming, possibility to interact with coding, so that, well, you have some awareness of either how the content is produced, what sort of data rates, codecs, and so on are needed to be carried or transported by the network, but also the other way, right? So how is the network behaving, and how can I then make decisions on this for the, well, the way video is encoded, transport, and so on. And then, well, if we look at in general the internet, IP, or in this case even 5G, for the point of view of wireless communications, there are many opportunities here also arising in order to well, set up kind of private local area networks for production, where you could deploy equipment and have, let's say, open a spot in I don't know, in a stadium or in the street or in an event, in order to manage all your equipment, let's say, connected to this 5G network and so on. So all these challenges and all these opportunities, well, 5G MAC, what we are doing is to concentrate on all these domains, let's say, end to end, right? From the content creation and the uplink, or even the local area network setup for creating content, up to distributing this content and being consumed by users into all these sort of different connected devices that are arising. So what we do is basically to leverage all these global technologies and APIs that allow us to configure networks and to do or to interface, let's say, with media or multimedia content networks, and, well, to reuse all these tools that are provided by means of the internet and 5G-based access. The role of 5G MAC is, I would say, divided into three pillars. First of all, is more on the industry consensus, right? So if you go to 3GPP, which is the standardization organization dealing with all these 5G specifications, well, normally the entry point is around requirements or use cases and so on, right? But there will be a benefit if these requirements and use cases, before arriving to 3GPP and generate, let's say, a load in terms of specs, that these are, let's say, discussed a little bit beforehand, so that we understand, well, what is the actual market for these technologies, what are the opportunities, what are the requirements, and so on, right? Because if not, it's kind of the Wild West. Everybody perhaps even repeating in different releases of the standards similar mechanisms, or inputting stuff that is already somehow even supported, right, by the standards. And it's just generating loads into standardization and consuming time on things that perhaps could be offloaded beforehand. Second pillar is around driving standardization. So the idea is to, well, once we have use cases, requirements, applications, services, and so on, that we are able to, well, to track what the standards are developing, right, in terms, for instance, of 3GPP, but also other related standardization organizations, understanding what is being developed, understanding the architectures that are applicable to the services and applications, and then also a component of profiling specifications. If you go to 3GPP, you will find a huge amount of paper and documents, right? But however, if you want to target a specific service or application, you would benefit from understanding only what are the building blocks to deliver a service, right? So we also do this work on profiling and adapting, let's say, the specs to what you really need to know in terms of APIs, in terms of architecture, in terms of system in the end that need to run your application or service. And then, in order not to stay, let's say, in the paperwork or more in the writing all of this, one essential thing we found is that normally when you see something up and running, that speaks more than a lot of papers trying to explain what this is about and so on, right? So what we decided, and that's the third pillar, is to develop an open source software development program so that we can get, let's say, people interested in building, I don't know, from Android apps to system components of the 5G system, to get everyone, let's say, together in order to develop software, to develop platforms, and in the end, well, to test all of this, if possible, in trials, in real test beds, and in real developments. Because as well, most of the things we are doing are, well, at the edge of standardization, right? So release 16, release 17, I mean, release 18 will come when everything is ready and approved. But we are really, let's say, pushing all this software development into being as much close as possible as what comes out of the 5G standards, what comes out of 3GPP, so that we can, well, early test all these specifications, even provide feedback to 3GPP based on real experiences, and so on. We decided to put all of this in place, just, let's say, to generate consensus in the industry, to have a good understanding of the standards, and to push them towards real implementations and so on. The work we do is organized by means of work items. You can see here 8 listed. There is a new one that I will comment in a bit. But the work in 5G MAC is all driven by the members, right? So sometimes we get, well, why are you working on this and not working on that? Well, basically because this is driven by members. If there are members willing to work more on other aspects, right, or would like to propose work on any particular services, well, that's all welcome, right? But we need to start from somewhere, and we need to start from where the current members want to spend time and effort in doing stuff. So basically the work is divided into, as I was saying, content production, which is more the local area network, processing, edge, uplink streaming, and so on. And then content distribution, which at the moment is more focused on streaming, broadcast, multicast, codecs, protocols, how all this works, and so on, right? For distribution on mobile networks, on broadcast networks, and so on. In terms of content production, let's have a look quickly. We are focusing on non-public networks. Non-public networks is a, let's say, an architecture configuration that is offered by the 5G standards in order to operate, let's say, traffic or processes in isolation with respect to other traffic in the network, right? And this can be deployed standalone, which means you can create your own non-public network totally independent from any mobile operator, so that, well, you go somewhere, perhaps you have the ability to set up your own network, you have the ability to use perhaps or to get a license for your own spectrum, and then you deploy a network for you. The other possibility also within the scope of the non-public networks that we are dealing with is to isolate traffic in terms of, okay, I'm using a mobile network, but I would like some processes or to have control on some of the processes running on that network. And I would like even to have this network guaranteeing me some quality of service parameters so that I can run everything, let's say, with the confidence that, let's say, regular traffic from the mobile network will not step on my services, right? So we are dealing with these different cases. And well, the opportunity here that what we have realized is not just to stay, let's say, on this ability to have a 5G network for yourself, and then obviously you can connect equipment. You can see here, you can connect microphone, camera, and any equipment that is involved into, call it a sport production or a news event that you need to cover on the street and so on. But actually, the ambition is to take profit of service capabilities of the 5G network, right? So it's not about connectivity, it's not about just latency, throughput, and that's it. It's not about changing a SIM card, let's say, from 4G to 5G and then job done. It's actually to go some steps beyond and actually understand what really 5G is and what really, let's say, 5G can bring into play. And for this, we have launched recently another, well, we have launched first a report in which we detect some of the capabilities that 5G can offer for this type of setups. And well, there's a report for which we even request feedback from, well, both from the media industry and also ICT industry in order to understand if we are on the right track with all this thinking. And then, well, what we have also done is to launch another work item that will be dealing, or that is at the moment analyzing the possibilities to automate, let's say, the onboarding of user equipment that may be unknown beforehand to the network, right? So don't expect a microphone, in the case we are dealing with, a microphone to have a SIM card and to have a SIM card of an operator, right? So, but perhaps an eSIM and let's say, and a generic sort of identification, but being able to jump into a non-public network. We are analyzing all the work that 3GPP has done on time-sensitive communications and how this can be leveraged for timing and synchronization of equipment, right? So instead of bringing your own master clock, what can we use? Can we leverage the master clock, let's say, that is provided by the 5G system in order to synchronize all the equipment, cameras, frames, frame synchronization, and things like that? Can we interact, let's say, can we use systems or radio access technologies that may not be from 3GPP in order to be connected to the same 5G network, so to have a 5G core, but with non-3GPP access? This is one thing we are also dealing with. Anything about uplink media streaming, right? So how to guarantee that my video or my sources are going to be transported over the 5G network with well, resiliency, availability, throughput, latency, and with all these parameters, how we can configure the network in order to provide this quality of service flows, let's say. And then, well, there's also in the pipeline, let's say, all the possibilities to leverage from low latency capabilities, edge computing enablers in relation to media streaming, right, in order to put some computation on the network and not perhaps on the devices, as, I don't know, perhaps they are more, let's say, energy sensitive or battery sensitive, and things like that, right? So we really want to go into details of the 5G capabilities and not just stay with a high level kind of, low latency and high throughput, and that's it, right? So we want to leverage all of this. In practical terms, what we are doing in 5G MAC, well, we have been contributing to some 3GPP studies on media production of a 5G MPN. So there's a technical report that that contains a lot of information and details on all, well, some initial insight, let's say, into these topics that later in 5G MAC we are analyzing, let's say, in more detail. We are also having a look at different frameworks, let's say, when it comes to spectrum access, right? So, and that's a complete topic in itself. How a spectrum access is at the moment being managed for these private networks in Europe, and actually considering if that's the best way to access the network, given that well, for some productions and so on, I mean, if you need to cover an event in a stadium and it's going to be for the weekend, perhaps it doesn't make a lot of sense to reserve a spectrum for you for a license of, I don't know, 10 years, right? So you need some flexibility in order to access a spectrum more in an ad hoc and temporal basis, right? So all these elements are being studied, and we are well, doing some progress on that area. Second step that I have prepared some slides is on content distribution, and here is where we have a lot of, let's say, a lot of work in terms of, as I was saying, in terms of broadcast networks, right? And with the possibility to have, I would say, for the first time, a kind of global standard based on 3GPP technology that could be used as any of the, I don't know, ATSC, DVB, DAB, ISDBT, right? And all these standards that are used in general to provide broadcast content, but however, do not have a device ecosystem in terms of smartphones, in terms of connected cars, in terms of wearables and so on, right? So the possibility to have for the first time a broadcast system that is able to provide content to these 3GPP devices that are, let's say, very well adopted by users nowadays, right? So, well, to consider the possibility to have systems in 3GPP in order to address these use cases. And here, well, members are working on different aspects, right? So the delivery in the end of OTT traffic, right? So you have your OTT app. I don't know, in Europe, we have like well, the MediaTek, the iPlayer, right? And the end is like kind of Netflix app. But when the content is linear, when the content is let's say one-to-many, that you can leverage these broadcast capabilities of the 5G system in order to deliver traffic, let's say, from the CDN or from already internet-based or internet-prepared packaged and so on traffic, well, to send it via unicast and broadcast up to these OTT over-the-top applications that, well, nowadays you can install in the phone, right? So from the point of view of the user, perhaps you don't even know if the content is broadcast or unicast, but well, to have the ability to make the network, let's say, capable of delivering both unicast and broadcast. In this case, the assumption is that you have a unicast or a broadband network and an independent broadcast network, as I was saying, as today, with all these, let's say, broadcast standards that are tailored for television and radio and so on. However, well, this in Europe, there are some service providers looking, I would say, entirely at the internet, right? So what happens if I don't have any broadcast anymore, right? And all my content needs to be dealt with well, mobile operators and basically fixed line, right? So what can we do with the 5G system? What are the tools that this global standard can provide in order to well, have a kind of universal access of these services for users at home, on the move, and leveraging, let's say, 5G features. Obviously, the aspect of personalizing, how can we benefit, or is there any way to benefit from some cost reduction or optimization of traffic when it comes, for instance, to interfacing with the content delivery networks and so on, right? So this is, let's say, another step or another work track in 5G MAC where we are dealing with more, let's say, pure broadband distribution. And here, well, 5G media streaming is a system developed in 3GPP that comes into play in order to manage traffic, in order to associate quality of service indicators to different, let's say, traffic or video flows and so on. The possibility, for instance, as well, to get reporting from the network, so what's going on in the network that allows the service provider to configure better what's going to be delivered, or what's the quality of experience at the user equipment that would make the service provider aware of any issues, so that, again, well, either he can configure or the service provider can configure the network or can configure the ingest of this traffic in order to adapt to the behavior of the network, right? And then, well, I'll go into some more details in some minutes, but this opened the door for more and more, let's say, digging into more specs that would allow much more functionalities, also heading into well, extended reality or edge capabilities, or things that are, let's say, coming next in terms of standards. Another work item we are dealing with is on multicast and broadcast services, which would be to use the network, the 5G network, to provide a multicast and broadcast, right? So we are no longer talking about an independent network that does broadcast, but it's the same, or it's the 5G mobile network that is able to optimize traffic or to scale traffic, let's say, or to switch traffic between unicast and multicast, also with granularity or cell granularity when it makes sense to be delivered, right? So I don't know, if you have an area where you know that many people are going to consume, I don't know, a football match on your OTT app, call it DAZN or call it whatever, well, is there any benefit in then establishing a multicast group so that all users can receive, or that the network can deliver once and all users just access this common resource? Well, we are investigating this and also building some of the components. There's a work item as well focused on audiovisual codecs and protocols, right? To understand what are the packaging and packaging formats and codecs that are enabled on the 5G system, and also perhaps, well, detecting some trends, let's say, in terms of some changes. I don't know, HLS, CMAF, and I'm sure WebRTC, Quick, and all of this will come soon, right? So how to well, make all these systems able to handle all these new protocols that in the end are going to be used over the internet and that users are going to use. And then we have another work item on delivery of emergency alerts or even multimedia emergency alerts based on the 5G broadcast functionality that I was speaking before, right? So how to merge, let's say, the cell broadcast system that is currently running on mobile networks, how to deliver these same type of emergency alerts to the public via, let's say, when you have a broadcast network, right, and a broadcast system. This is also something our members are working on. And as I said, there's a new work item that we have just launched. Actually, that we have the first telco in half an hour to kick off this work. That is going to go beyond traditional, let's say, two-dimensional content, right? So we are going to go into more interactive video, multi-view experiences, virtual reality, volumetric video, for instance, to capture, let's say, in sort of 360 or with many cameras, the action in a football match or in a boxing match and so on, and well, provide this to the end user so that the end user can choose what to see and what's right, to give some interactivity to the end user to display what you would like to see and how and from which angle and so on, right? So we are starting this work now in order to provide requirements, in order to understand architectures, to understand what's the status of the 5G standards in order to support these use cases and so on. And we expect to do this in collaboration with other forums like Dash, IF, or MPEG, or the Streaming Video Alliance, Technology Alliance, and so on. So it's not just a work, let's say, closed in 5G MAC. So well, many topics, right? And as I said, we are dealing with a standardization. We are providing feedback to 3GPP. The work in 5G MAC is really quite open to anybody. It's all, or part of the work is handled by a public GitHub, right, where everybody can provide feedback on specs or discuss and so on. So it's quite open. But I would like to highlight, and I have like 5-10 minutes more. I would like to highlight that, okay, we've seen a lot of standards, architectures, use cases, requirements, and so on. But actually, a big part of our work is on developing software. We decided to create a community of developers, which is open to anybody to participate, to test, to contribute code, and so on. And in order to provide reference implementations of the 5G systems, what we call the 5G media platform, 5G, 3GPP, right? Because at some point, everything will move to 6G as well, and we will have specs of 6G coming from 3GPP, right? So it's more in general to implement what the standards are providing, to test it in real environments, to provide feedback to standards experts, and in the end, to generate a platform that can be used in real test beds or even in products, a little bit even ready for or heading towards commercialization, right? And here is, well, I would say the roadmap or the different specifications that we have in mind to support. And well, the work has really started, and we are quite advanced, at least in 5G media streaming, with the first steps in LTE-based 5G broadcast as well. Well, and then next steps are going to be on setting up quality of service policies on the network, also on 5 MBS, multicast broadcast services. And well, since it's all contribution driven and member driven, let's say, well, we just adapt to whatever, let's say, colleagues would like to see implemented. As I said, this is open. Anybody can participate, even non-5G MAC members. So it's really open. And well, all the information is on the website. What we have in the roadmap is, well, you see here some of the contributors at the moment, what they are working on. We are working on media streaming for reliable video on demand over mobile networks. We are working also on MBS for personalized live radio over mobile networks, 5G broadcast on demand in order to activate, let's say, broadcast when it's needed, right? Premium and targeted content insertion with 5G media streaming, so that, I don't know, it can be even location-based. You can tailor the content that is being displayed to the user according to, well, location or to whatever sort of personalization algorithm you would have. We are also collaborating with DVB on the DVB-I, let's say the DVB Internet standard that provides some metadata for service discoverability over broadband networks. Well, we are working on interfacing all this new way of delivering content, but to make it compatible with the 5G systems. That involves media streaming and 5G broadcast. And well, there are more people now also willing to expand a little bit into non-terrestrial networks, satellite, another aspect. So the thing is evolving quite fast. Since I will circulate the slides, I'll just provide now in 5 minutes a very, very brief overview of what's going on. So we provide several repositories, for instance, in order to do, in this case, MBMS or LTE-based 5G broadcast, right? All these things I was speaking about, to deliver broadcast content, to deliver, let's say, broadband content, and to have some insight into what is being consumed and how, and then be able to switch the transmission from unicast to multicast as it makes sense, right? So as I was saying, making it even transparent to current OTT apps, so that with your current app in the phone, it's up to the middleware to provide you with the unicast or the broadcast traffic as it makes sense. We have demos that have shown the functionality from our members already during IBC, and this is, let's say, evolving into new applications in terms of seamless switching from a CDN provided content to broadcast provided content, and vice versa, according to what the user is consuming. We have also demos that can be run locally and with HLS, DAS, and so on. So I just invite everyone to look at the website. You can actually download and install all of this and play with it. We have also the colleagues from UPV that have done, let's say, the first open source transmitter, and I know they are using it already in some place in Spain to do demos and trials. So we have an open source transmitter for broadcast also available. So there's a lot, let's say, going on in terms of software and so on. And then for all the part of media streaming, which is more focused on mobile networks, this is our baseline setup, right, with the different tools that are available in the specs. This application function, application server, and then the clients that will allow us to do consumption reporting, a collection of metrics from the user or from the network to establish some quality of service indicators and to configure the network accordingly, right? So we are dealing with all of this, and we have started with some, let's say, initial steps in terms of implementing these functions. So at the moment, we have one already, the application server and the media stream handler for the UE already operative. So this can be, you can find all this information in the website, but you can already download the different tools in GitHub and play with them, also for the media player. And we have also first releases of the application function and the media session handler, which, they look at, let's say, configuring the network or being able to configure the network in order to treat, for instance, traffic into a specific way. For this, we have also a GitHub repository with all these functions available. There's an excellent documentation as well, and we really ask for feedback, right? So people implementing all of this. If you are interested and if you are doing some software development for video, for streaming and whatever, we welcome feedback, right, on all of this that is being implemented. As I said, I'll provide the slides because there's plenty of material here, right? But just to give an overview of what we are implementing, which is not just, let's say, paperwork, but it's actually software and it's actually playing with equipment and so on. You can find videos of all of this in our website. And then the next steps for all of this that I mentioned, we are implementing or trying to implement as much as possible of the tools that are coming from 3GPP. So we are also asking for developers interested in this to put effort. And we are expanding. As I said, we started with 5G broadcast. Second step has been to start with 5G media streaming. Then we will deal with quality of service policies, and we want to test all of this with real services, right? So it's time to really join the development efforts and propose work to be done, and we take anything on board. So that's all what I prepared. So I just thought of providing, let's say, some more high-level things and also going a little bit into details, but I know we don't have plenty of time to dig into all of this, but I'm happy to receive any questions and feel free to contact me at any point as well.
Thank you very much, Jordi, for your talk. Very interesting. We have a big picture on 5G MAG group activities and also some details about ongoing activities. We can take some questions from the floor. If you have any questions, please ask your questions. Otherwise, I have also some questions from my side. You can either raise your hand or write questions on the chat. I have a question about this advanced media services group, because I wanted to know also which kind of media you are targeting, because we have several types of media. For example, we can talk about 360 video, multi-view, light field, paramount cloud, or even volumetric videos. Are you targeting any specific content, or it is open to any type of content that's enabling like 3D representation of the set?
So the work, give me a second, I think the slide is coming. Yes. So the work, or let's say what is in the scope of the work is actually, I would say, a first step into these advanced media services, to do a collection first of work that is or that has happened in 3GPP and work that is happening or that has happened elsewhere, right? So to understand what has been done in terms of, let's say, mobile delivery or even capture, right? But for all these scenarios, and in the end, so this is a list of 6 initial, let's say, concepts or services that we will be looking at. But I expect at some point that we open this a little bit to the industry. So if there is interest in other services or other applications that are not treated, that's something we will announce, and we will be happy to get insight, right? But I understand the work item is more focused on, let's say, capture that would allow users to experience content differently, right? I don't think it's about just 3D in the sense of traditional 3D, but it's more about, let's say, volumetric video, for instance, or things that can be experienced in virtual reality. I expect at some point as well to have to deal with some sort of split rendering or all these new aspects that require some computation capabilities to be perhaps offloaded into the network, right? So we are looking at all these different possibilities, but at the moment, just from a requirements point of view, into services applications that have already been treated perhaps in some other forums, and then understanding the architecture or the support of the services by means of the 3GPP systems. That's the initial idea. So yeah, 360, I think, I mean, it's in, but we need to dig a little bit into details of what are the requirements, what is the type of application that perhaps you have in mind, and yeah, how to translate all of this into actual, let's say, technology requirements.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to especially have a link between activities for 360 for maybe like volumetric representation at MPEG. They developed already 2 standards, and there is 1 standard ongoing, and also activities in terms of streaming, for example, how to use CMAP, HLS, WebRTC to deliver this content.
Right. There is, yes,
volumetric media forum, like also providing some guidelines for how to stream volumetric video. But
exactly.
linking the 3GPP activities, it will be very interesting also.
Yeah, so our idea, and I know in the work item description, this is clearly there, right? So not to let's say, not to reinvent anything, but actually to understand. And I know, well, we have members active in MPEG, and I know this is a scene description work that MPEG has been doing, right? So we want to bridge everything together. Also, in terms of, I know in -IF, there's been also some use case about this stadium interactivity. So yeah, so we will be dealing with bringing together all this information and try to go, let's say, one step beyond in terms of what requirements for capturing, for contribution, for encoding, rendering, and so on. But the work just started, right? So it's step by step.
I have also a second question about maybe two questions which are related. Is because now we use artificial intelligence or machine learning, deep learning techniques in many topics, and also there are we have like a team working on 6G, 6G like 6G activity. How do you see like AI and the 6G are investigated in 3GPP or 5G market group?
Right. So I know in 3GPP there's been, so there's AI/ML, there's been AI/ML work items. I think more on perhaps on the configuration of the radio access network or the radio access technology and so on. So the thing is that we need to when it comes to media applications or multimedia applications, we need to understand what is applicable, right, and understand the architecture and all of this. So is AI/ML in the scope or this 6G in the scope of 5G MAC? Yes, but we need to tailor it to a specific application, right, and see which services or which applications would benefit from these functionalities, right? And I think once we detect this, then it's easy to put it into the workflow of then ending up even in reference tools, let's say in software implementation and so on, right? But at the moment, I know there are many topics that are dealt within 3GPP and so on, but we need to try to funnel them into specific applications and then try to build them, right? But obviously now and dealing with, let's say, with more immersive or content that goes beyond the smartphone, which I think is maybe is the next target of the mobile industry, right? So the smartphone is perhaps amortized already, but how to go into other devices. Yeah, and then making all these networks more intelligent to deal with content and with content that is not longer going to be displayed just in a 2D, okay, this is my video, consume it, but more with the interactivity and with the, bringing the spatial domain into the picture of how video is captured, how decisions are made in order to provide you different views and so on. I think that's where we are going to see all these more advanced features coming into play, right? And also with the offloading of computation between devices that, for instance, for smart glasses and so on, I don't think you can expect that the glasses will deal with all the computation of, in this case, of video, but you need some assistance from somewhere else, right? From the network perhaps and so on. But that's where where we will see more of these advanced technologies, and I expect as soon as 3GPP starts dealing with this also from a multimedia point of view, that we start providing tools and providing support for all of this.
Okay, thank you very much for your talk. For me, I have I don't know if we can take another question if there is a question from the floor. Otherwise, we can close this talk. So thank you very much, Jordi, for your talk. It is very interesting for our team at TII, working on 6G activities and also media content, volumetric media content streaming. And we are very happy also to hear about 5G activities, and we wish like we will contribute in the future.
Very well. A pleasure to be here, and yeah, feel free to reach out. I may reach out to you if we have a workshop or we have something open to discuss on this topic, in particular of the volumetric video and all of this, so that we can get input from you.
Yeah, we wrote a paper recently on all this volumetric video for the metaverse at TII. So we can contribute in that sense because we identified all activities in terms of standardization for 3GPP and also for MPEG, streaming, etc. I think it will be very useful for the group.
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, keep in touch. Thank you very much, Jordi. And I can also share your slides with our team and keep in touch for future collaboration.